All right, good evening, everybody. It is Thursday, June 16th. This is ANC 5D's June meeting of their Zoning and Development Committee. We have just one presentation on the agenda tonight. There's only like two pending Board of Zoning Adjustment or Zoning Commission cases within 5th District in the next few months, and we have the applicants behind Zoning Commission case, I think 22-21. I didn't swap those numbers, and they're going to hear tonight, and they're going to present and give us some a presentation on a project. So I am going to turn it over to the team behind the project to present. I think you're all now co-hosts. I think you should all be able to present, but let me know if you need to be. Actually, I may need to promote you to a co-host. So whoever wants to present, let me know.
I have the slides. So if you can allow me to share my screen, I'll do that.
Sure. I have made you a co-host, so now you can present your slides.
Great, thank you. So before we pull the slides up, I think our team can go around and introduce ourselves and just give you a little bit of a kind of brief intro as to where we are in the process. And then I'll pull up the slides. I think Peter is going to do some introductions on the project. And then, as I said, we're happy to answer questions and just kind of talk through everything. My name is Megan Hoddle-Cox. I'm with Goulston and Storrs and Land Use Council for the project.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Stewart. I'm with Outlier Development. And I think John's here too.
Yep. Hello, I'm John Sage. I'm with ZDS Architects. I'm part of the design team.
Okay, so I will go ahead and pull up the presentation. Okay, can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So just to walk through, as a reminder, for those who aren't familiar with the site, this is 2225 to 2229 M Street Northeast. This is just south of the Arboretum and adjacent to that federal kind of triangle land. And the project that we're presenting is a planned unit development and zoning map amendment to redevelop this property with an all affordable senior housing project through a PUD. Just a little bit of brief information about the development team. As Peter said, he's with Outlier. There's a little bit of information about Outlier as a real estate company, and then Goodwin Companies as the development firm. And the development team will be partnering with Housing Up, which is a nonprofit that does all affordable housing in the district and housing management and services to support residents. And they will be working with us on this project for the tenants that will be living here. So an overall summary of what's planned by the project. The project, like I said, will go through the PUD process, including a zoning map amendment. The property is currently zoned RA2, and consistent with the comprehensive plan's future land use map, we would be proposing to rezone the property to RA4. And that would facilitate developing this roughly 15,000 square foot lot with a new building with approximately 120 all affordable senior housing units, as well as services for those residents within the building, including tenant amenities. And the project drawings are fully available within the ISIS, the zoning website, but we have a couple of shots of the overall building. Peter, I don't know, do you want to walk through the kind of building design?
Yeah, sure. No, I'm happy to. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to join you this evening and taking the time. And you know, the development slide page said Outlier and Goodwin Companies, but it's really Megan and John doing all the hard work. So we appreciate all that they've done. And you can see here, this is the elevation if you were on M Street looking south. And you can see that we've put the entrance to the east of the property next to what Megan pointed out, which is that large corner parcel, which is owned by the federal government. You can see we've done a bunch, or we're planning on doing quite a bit of streetscape, adding some street trees, and really trying to activate this corner of the neighborhood. So you can maybe go to the next slide and we can get another view of it. So this is, we're looking southwest.
A quick question for you,
Yeah, go ahead.
because you're not showing it. There is a sidewalk that goes from Maryland Avenue down to M along the edge of the current building between there and the park area that the federal government owns. Will you be maintaining that or adding it back?
It's a good question. I think I'm not sure where it sits, whether it's
It literally would be along the edge of where your bushes are right now.
Is it, I guess my question, Skip, do you know if it's on our property or?
I do not know that.
If that's going to be what it hinges on.
I'm asking because a lot of people use that path.
Okay.
So they don't have, because there's no sidewalk around the federal bit, no real sidewalk.
My assumption then would be that it would be on the federal land potentially, but let me get our survey and look at it. But that's a great question, Skip. I'll get back to you on that. But we certainly would want to maintain the ease of being able to traverse that instead of having to go all the way around. That, you know, from an ease of use, that makes total sense.
Yes, I mean, I walk it quite a bit and I see a lot of people walking dogs and people and ladies with high heels, etc.
We want to make it as easy as possible to get around that corner for sure. So you can see in this elevation, and John can, you know, feel free to chime in at any point, but I think he's done a beautiful job of planning the exterior. You've got brick, we've got metal panel, we've got cementitious siding around the top, and then you can see in the back the parking. We've got 10 spaces back there, and I believe 2 of them will be for car sharing services. And there's quite a bit of bike parking, and I think you can see some of it. I believe some of it is in the front. Yeah, there you go. But maybe we go to the next slide. So this is now looking southeast. Again, you're along M Street. You can see the large park there. The Arboretum is immediately behind us. And one of the things we're really excited about this project being able to benefit from is the beautiful Arboretum right across the street. So we'll have great views into that, which is exciting. So you can go to the next slide. So this is our proposed material palette. And you can see we've chosen really neutral tones, and we think it's a great looking building. But we'd love to hear feedback from folks. I think again, it's metal panel, cementitious siding, and brick. You can go to the next one. And then we've got a couple of floor plan slides. This is the first floor plan, and this is right at grade. So you can see the entrance, you can see the parking in the rear. We've also got some great amenities like a fitness room, movie room, community space, including a rooftop garden. We're going to have an outdoor kitchen, and we'll obviously have solar panels on the roof as well. So second floor plan, this is just kind of typical floor plan. You can see the loading is through the rear of that second floor. Again, about 120 units. It will be a senior affordable building. You can go to the next one, Megan. And one of the things that we're working on, obviously, as you go through and meet DC's progressive energy code, you're going to do a lot of Energy Star appliances and energy efficient lighting, but we're also looking at smart home features and other ways that we can elevate, our sustainability for this project. So I think, yeah, we've got, community benefits. Obviously, one of the things we've done, and many of you have seen our team before presenting this project, but we would love to get additional feedback on ways that we can be helpful and drive value creation to the community. We've obviously, like I mentioned, we're going to do solar panels and we'll be part of the Green Communities program, and we're creating affordable housing. But in addition to activating that corner, we'd love to find additional ways to be helpful and good neighbors.
And
I have a few questions here.
Absolutely.
Are these condos? Are they rentals?
They're rentals. They're
They're
rentals.
rentals. Okay.
Yeah, so it's all senior affordable. So 55 plus. We haven't determined yet the AMI range, but we'll determine that later on down the road. But likely somewhere in the 50 to 80% AMI.
And we do know from the different affordability option, like the financing pieces that we'd be looking at least 80% of the units in the building would be 60% MFI or less. And the range would be somewhere between 30% and 80%. Like I said, that, or like Peter said, that's getting finalized. But that's roughly the piece that we're looking at for the affordable housing component.
So for the folks at home, could you, and don't have to do it on the spot. I don't want to make you have to do math real quick, but in the next 10 minutes, could you tell us what 60% MFI, what is that dollar value for 2022? Like what is 50% AMI? What is 80% AMI? I think it's handy.
I think we may even have a slide on it, Meg. It's a great question.
Yeah, let me pull up an older slide set that we sent the ANC that has that specific information.
The ASL interpreter has the spotlight's gone missing.
Okay. She is spotlighted. Is there another? Oh, the other interpreter. Okay.
Yes, they're swapping every 15 minutes apparently.
Sure thing. Who is the other? Oh, there is Julie. Spotlight.
And okay. So apologies, just give me one moment to get back to sharing screen.
And I do actually, before you share your screen, I just want to quickly share my screen for 2 seconds.
Sure.
I'm just going to show, how do I share the whole thing? Actually, I just want to share the entire screen. This happened before. Anyway, just want to share Google here. This is
one second. There's the sidewalk I was just mentioning. It's there now.
There we go.
Skip, that's literally why I have this up. Okay, so that's the sidewalk. And I believe your plans are showing an area where, like, are you building right to the edge of the property line?
John,
yeah, I can answer that. We currently are building the edge of our area way retaining wall is at the property line.
And I know this is going into an alley, so it's not exactly going into, but yeah, I can see how.
I see people walk up that alley and down that thing quite frequently when I'm walking around there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's really, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Another question I had is, I saw in your plans, the street is listed as 90 feet wide and in the plat. How is that 90 feet measured? Is that are you including the sidewalk, or is that 90, doesn't strike me as 90 feet wide?
Sure. So the right-of-way measurements under the zoning regulations and kind of the way that they're used within zoning applications is measured from property line to property line. So it's the public right-of-way. So that includes the sidewalks. It would include some of that green area that's on the Arboretum side that is public space. And it includes the actual street lanes. So it includes it includes the parking lane. So it includes all of the area that's in public space.
Yeah, it's 10 feet. So I found it. I looked it up. It's 10 feet sidewalk, 18 feet parking, 34 foot of the two-way traffic, then 18 and 10 again is the 90.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And I was just going to say on the sidewalk piece, and then kind of the overall porosity of the site and transit access. And maybe this is a good time to briefly touch on where we are in terms of process. So we've filed our PUD application. We have not been set down yet. We expect to be set down by the commission later this summer. We would then, take the comments that we've heard thus far from the community, as well as comments that we expect to get from the Office of Planning and from the Zoning Commission at set down, work to address those, and then be submitting a pre-hearing submission. That would actually set the date for our hearing, hopefully sometime later this year, but likely into the late fall. And then we would have our hearing at that point. So we do expect this to be kind of an iterative and ongoing conversation with the community and, with your committee and with the ANC overall. We are working with Grove Slade on the transportation piece and talking to them about, they're working on a specific transit study for the project, and they're also coordinating with DDOT. And so I'm sure the question that you asked, Skip, about the sidewalk, that's going to be something that DDOT is going to be looking at as well. So I'm sure there will be more updates as we continue those conversations, since this is relatively early in the process.
Okay. One thing that came up in the ANC meeting, which I think is exceedingly important, is that the back entrance to the Arboretum is going to be redone. And that view you're seeing on maps is rather deceiving at present, because when, at least in the last few months when I've walked up there, the streets all around there are full of people parked on the sides. I find it highly unlikely that there will be only a couple people in that building with cars, especially as the supermarkets are quite a bit away. And it's an uphill trudge.
Yeah, Skip, that's a great point. One of the things that I've asked our team to look into is working with our property management partner to determine how they typically handle that. My assumption is that it's having a bus or some sort of transportation that they offer their residents. But we will definitely get back to you. And as Megan said, we're studying this with Grove Slade, so we'll be back to you.
And that'll also be, I'm sure, some of DDOT's questions and concerns. And so between, the community and DDOT, as well as, of course, the commission, we'll definitely have a lot more information on transit. Since this is kind of early, that's why these conversations are really helpful for us to understand what is actually going on in the community.
Yes, I think it was Commissioner Blackwell who was very concerned about that, if memory serves, from the ANC.
Yeah, so that is definitely on our radar.
Yeah, it's Commissioner Bernice Blacknell is the single member district commissioner for this area. So I returning to the issue of affordability. Hopefully you got the numbers calculated in the meantime, since I asked a few minutes ago. But also, who manages that? Like, do you yourselves? Is it done through a city program, or is it done you just yourselves look at it and that's how is it administered? The affordable rental aspect.
So it will be, some of it will be determined by the actual financing mechanism, but it is not just administered by the property owner. It is done through district agencies that certify income and that have to, work with the property owners. But it's not just a kind of done property to property. There is a kind of citywide certification process and management process to ensure that residents are meeting the income levels. And it not only restricts the overall income, but then focuses on the rent itself, and how much that can be based on that information. And I do have the numbers. And so were you curious about the and it may be all of the above, but we can start in one place. The income levels or the rent levels for those units based on the income levels?
I'll say both.
Okay, sure. So for the annual income for a household size of 2, which is kind of a standard, the 100%, so the median family income in the district for a household of 2 is $103,200. So 80% is family earning $82,550. 60% is $61,900, and 50% is $51,600. And then for the rental for that, level, for a 1-bedroom, just as kind of an example, a 1-bedroom for an 80% MFI unit would be $1,850 a month. For a 60% MFI unit, it would be $1,400 a month for a 1-bedroom. And for a 50% MFI level, for a 1-bedroom, it would be $1,160. And that's as of today. I'm going to drop into the chat a link to a DHCD document that includes all of this information that is updated yearly. And so I think that'll just be useful as you're kind of looking overall. And a new one will likely be coming out from DHCD this summer, just because they do all of the studies to determine the median family income. But that's the link to the numbers that I just ran through, which is this year's document.
I
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a curious question, because I don't know much about how communities that are 55 plus operate. But what happens if someone in it who is above 55 plus, after being there a few years, then marries someone who is under 55 mark? What happens to that person?
Good question, Skip.
Or has a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever who is under that?
This goes to why we hire a property management company that specializes in exactly this. Right?
I'm curious. I'm just asking because
Skip, they know the answer to that question, but I don't.
Okay.
My assumption, Skip, is that it is the person that leases the property. So whoever's on the lease would need to be 55 plus. But it's a great question. Again, we will hire a property management firm that specializes in senior housing.
Okay, I was just curious because I have some friends who the spouse differential's 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I suspect that you get into fair housing if you were discriminatory against folks that weren't on the lease but happened to be living there. But again, that's not my area of expertise, so I would defer. But I could find out for you, Skip.
I was just curious. Back to Kevin or Marshall.
I noticed, so I was looking at your plans, and the community room is 653 square feet. And I see there's a fitness center, but you mentioned in the presentation, the 120 units, 650. That seems pretty compact and insufficient for 120 units for senior housing. Normally, I know this isn't a retirement home, but normally when you go into facilities like this, there's a lot more community space on the first floor.
There's also area on the rooftop, and I don't know offhand how big that is, but we can certainly get that square footage unless John or Megan has it handy.
One of you also mentioned a cinema. Would that be the community room?
We're planning a movie room. I can find out the total. What we can do is we can get you a total amenity square footage breakdown, if that's helpful, just so you can see it. And then also typically what we get is we get feedback from our property manager as to, dollar per square feet of rentable versus versus square feet of rentable versus square foot of amenity. And so we try to be in the range of what's typical, but we can get that to you as well.
Okay. And
I also remember, sorry, Kevin.
Sorry, I was going to ask, at the start of the presentation, you mentioned that you were in the process of purchasing the 2 units, the 2 lots. Are there, do you own one of the lots now? Are you working on
Yes.
purchasing a second? Which lot is currently owned?
So we currently own 2229M, which is the furthest east So the one that would have that sidewalk either has the sidewalk or borders the sidewalk, one or the other. And then we are under contract to purchase 2225M.
Understood.
For the bike room, from what was said on Tuesday, I gather it will have some form of repair facility. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I am curious, this project, without a PUD, what could you build? Like, you're asking for zoning relief. You know, what would the matter of right build have looked like?
Megan, I don't know if we have the full square footage handy, but we can certainly get that analysis to you just to show you side by side.
I think that would be very useful at the upcoming ANC meetings. It's always handy if you could say, hey, listen, this is what we can do as a matter of right. And in exchange for this community benefits package, this is what we're getting. Because, you know, you're asking for the ANC support and the support of the zoning commission and just that kind of, you know, because there is sometimes a negative impact. There is impacts to parking, and some people may not like the increased shadow or the density. So it's helpful if you can say, this is what we can do as a matter of right. And in exchange for us doing all of these nice things for the community, this is what we are doing instead. Because I mean, you know, plans are the plans, but people want to see like why, what the ask is.
As just kind of a thumbnail, I guess it's about twice as big. They go from about 50 feet to 90 feet being height wise, and from without inclusionary zoning 1.8 to 3.5 FAR, and with inclusionary I think they're at like 5, something like that. So it's twice the size, give or take, on size wise, and occupancy wise goes up as well.
And apologies, my computer shut down just at random. And so we can definitely send you that information on the changes and all of the details. It's actually in the record as Exhibit A to our application in ISIS, as a table that directly walks through, you know, what the matter of right would be, and then what is being proposed by the project. I would share it on my screen, but my computer still won't turn back on, so I'm on my phone. But we can definitely share that information with you. And I think it's a great idea as we're getting close to the ANC presentations in the fall. We can put that together into our slides to actually show kind of what is being proposed.
Kevin, you wanted to mention the sort of like capital bike share query, etc.
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime I see something like this, there is a lot of. I'm just thinking about. I think about community amenities. Like I look at this site and I'm like, how large is the sewer running through the street? The electrics, you know, like, will you be? Who covers the cost of? Obviously, to your building, you'll have to do that. But will there be a benefit to the surrounding buildings that will enable future development next door? Like, I'm quite sure the Pepco service to that corner does not support a 120 unit building right now, nor the water lines or the sewer lines. I'm not sure. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So oh, go ahead, Megan.
I was just going to say, we do have consultants as part of the team that are working with the utility companies and looking at the kind of overall water line, the, you know, DC Water and the Pepco facilities, and ensuring that anything that's not doesn't have the capacity to handle a development would be addressed. So that is something that is taken into account, and it's part of the overall project. Some of that comes closer to the building permit process. Obviously the benefits and amenities I know that you're speaking about, Kevin, come now as part of the conversation, but the specific kind of lines into the building, but they do that analysis early on, and they have started that analysis. There is an environmental analysis in our initial filing as well that talks about what the you know, water capacity for the building is going to need to be, and addresses some of that. I believe it's Exhibit F in our filing as well. So when my computer does turn back on, I'm happy to send you a link to be able to download our full application so that you have it all in one place. And it has that information. And then of course, anything that you'd like broken out, we're happy to do that as well. But just want to make sure you have all the information that you would like to have.
Yeah. I know in some of the neighborhoods, people who have been applying to install solar systems on their house have actually, it's been in the news recently, they've been receiving a large quotes from Pepco because the closest transformer for them is already tapped out and can't do it anymore. And Pepco has been pushing the cost onto homeowners, and homeowners like, oh, they're basically saying to some homeowners, oh, if you want to install a solar system, you need to give us $10,000. So you as one homeowner have to pay to upgrade a transformer under the manholes. So that's one of the things that we don't want suddenly nearby homeowners or property owners who had wanted to go solar suddenly being capped out because this building took up all of the electric capacity in the area. I know it's kind of, so yeah, it's just something that's on my mind.
Another item we were discussing earlier was that, and we don't know who this would fall under, but with elderly people or older people, however you want to phrase it, going in there, having sidewalks on both sides of the street would be advisable. The Arboretum is planning on redoing its back gate. It is potentially possible that one could make an argument that they need to extend the sidewalk down the north side of M to connect it up to the far end. Right now, M Street does not have a northern curbing at all. It just disappears into the grass. The road itself is not in the greatest of condition. Honestly, from the way it looks, I seriously wonder if it really has proper footings. Again, that would be a DDOT thing, but it's something you might want to query because there was a building further up M that I noticed they're building, and I noticed they had what looked like a sinkhole in M Street. And I was told that had occurred as they were doing excavations on their building. The road just sort of buckled, but it wasn't caused by them. It was caused by the fact that the road itself wasn't properly done and that DDOT was going to be doing something on it. And I think it was further up the hill. This isn't showing buildings that are under construction right now, so I can't tell you exactly where I saw it. But there's a partial curb in certain situations, but it doesn't go all the way down. And as you can see, in some cases, there's the curb there, but if you go further up, it's not there. And it's just like the federal triangular plot there only has curbing partway. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as you get more and more traffic on that road, which a building like yours will result in, you're going to want to, your people are going to be wanting to park along that road. And I can see all sorts of trouble coming from that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the question is, as part of your discussions with DDOT, is that something that DDOT would come in and ask you to do side work in the, because obviously that's not your land, right? And I believe the city might actually own a small sliver before the federal land starts. Or if you can clarify, which are you allowed to build? Is even the city allowed to build a sidewalk, or is this federal land here?
It's a good question, Kevin. I don't know the answer, but whoever owns it would be the only party that would be able to at least permit something to be built on it. But I'd certainly see what you're talking about, and it does look like a suboptimal, precarious situation.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that if it is the Arboretum that owns it,
yeah,
you may wish to have discussions with them while they're plotting and planning their reopening of that back gate to get it into their plans, even if it doesn't happen immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Just an FYI.
Yeah, well, we can certainly reach out to them and see what their plans are and ensure that we at least advocate to have them include or be thoughtful about further up M Street.
Because what concerns me is having older people going in there who, especially the more older part of them may be less firm or maybe infirm, however you want to phrase it. And what concerns me is they may go for a walk and then have problems.
Mhm.
Because you are at the low end of M Street.
Right.
It's uphill from where you are. Everywhere is uphill.
Right.
I think
And
I feel
I'm
we've been
also not
asking.
certain where the bus stop comes, but I think it's one block up on Maryland.
Now, will there be? I mean, 120. Will there be? With your discussions with DDOT, will there be a bus stop put in? As a discussion of adding a route here. I mean, I think a lot of people are concerned. It is a very large. For context, this building is about the same size as the new Delta Towers, the Starburst intersection. And I think a lot of people are probably going to be very worried, just concerned. And I mean, we need more. I mean, I think it's fantastic. Building affordable senior housing is great. But it's a very tall building when I think all the surrounding buildings are maybe 3 stories. You're dropping in, is it 9, 10 stories here? Very different compared to what's in there today.
We can certainly check with DDOT about whether or not they would be open to or have plans to add any routes. I mean, the bus that I was referencing was more potentially a private shuttle based on what our property manager typically does in these.
And I think that's a good idea.
Help people get around, to your point.
I think that'd be a good idea, especially if you're taking people to Aldi or something like that.
Right.
But I believe the X8 stops at, or essentially the next block up, which I think is maybe 25th or 26th Street. Do you know which it is? Kevin, what's the street that's up, the next one up? Is that the one that goes along the high school and then goes up to Maryland Avenue along the edge of the golf course?
Let me look.
I think the bus may terminate there or the block further up.
26th or I?
It goes up to Maryland Avenue, but I think it might be 26th. But the bus either terminates there or the next block up the hill, which would be like 20.
Yeah, it looks like there's a bus stop on the corner of I Street at Maryland, which is the X8.
But there's one beyond. There's one there. There's one at 19th in Maryland. I know because I've gotten off there and walked down the hill. I think there's at least one more up, or at that point going down the hill slightly. But I don't think there's anything beyond that.
Yeah, it's 22nd. You're right.
It's 22nd. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking a roughly 5-block walk, give or take a little. No, maybe
Sorry.
not. Maybe 4 blocks. I'm not looking at the map, so I'm not certain. But
Sorry, I was going to say, are you saying a 5-block walk to the property or
to and from the bus stop? Yeah.
Well, the bus stop is right in front of the property immediately to the south of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's right on Maryland. So it's actually quite close. Now, Skip,
Okay.
It hinges on access to that alley where that sidewalk is, the pivotal
Exactly.
sidewalk. So it hinges on being able to do that and then walk out onto Maryland. But it's
And what would also be nice there would be an actual bus stop as opposed to a little sign, because there isn't one now.
And I would go further. I would say a covered bus shelter.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm getting at. An actual bus stop with a cover and seats. Something that I know you said you had bike racks outside, but one thing I would encourage would be maybe a combo thing for Capital Bikes. Is that the right name for it, Kevin?
Capital Bike Share?
Huh?
Capital Bike Share, is that?
Exactly. One for Capital Bike Share, as well as sort of a thing for some of the scooters and the little mopedy things. I've forgotten who runs it. It might be Revel. I think it's actually
Yeah.
Revel. But
Skip, is that really the market for 55 and older?
I know people who are in their 60s running around on those things. So,
Okay, all right.
and bear in mind, I'm almost to that age and I use those scooters. They're especially useful for getting up a hill. So, for example, if you're trying to get up to the supermarket, if you have a backpack or something, which a lot of older people actually do, they might use something like that to get up there, or like a little thing attached to one of the bikes to go up to the supermarket and back.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, but you also have people in those other buildings having something there, even if it's more than just the people in that building using it, would be useful. Does it make sense? And it gives
Yeah,
options
no,
for transit.
Absolutely. And part of, as Megan mentioned, our consultants at Grove Slade will do a full kind of transportation analysis for us. And they'll look at multiple modes of transportation, to your point, scooters and bikes and cars. So once we have that full report, we will absolutely come back and share it. We're just a little early in process for that.
Oh yeah, I understand that. I'm just thinking you had a little picture for the little bike track.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it might be worthwhile thinking
Bikes
about
and
including
scooters.
other things than just
Right.
the empty bike rack.
Multimodal transportation hub.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I could easily see happening is someone taking a scooter down the hill to get home quickly and locking it up at the bike rack.
Right.
And then someone else in, say, another building up the street or whatever could unlock that, like a Lime or something, and then take it where they're going. So that
Mhm.
happens where I live on I Street.
Well, once we have that full study, we'll definitely come back and
Yeah.
to get your input on it also.
But Kevin, my mother uses apps. She uses FaceTime, and she's 93. I doubt she would use. I doubt she would use a scooter, but she does use a bicycle.
Okay.
So up where she lives in Pennsylvania. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Gotcha. So I just want to return to the discussion earlier. We talked about affordability.
Mhm.
And so all units, so right now I know you are trying to figure that out. Is it the goal that prior to next, I know the ANC, they don't have a regularly scheduled meetings in July and August. I know the BZA Zoning Commission don't have any hearings in August. So what is your, have you asked Commissioner Moore to get on the agenda for like the September meeting, the October meeting? Is that when you're next planning to present?
That is when we're next planning to present. Some of that will be informed by the set down, which I mentioned is going to happen later this summer. So since we don't have a hearing date yet, and it'll be later this fall, when we come back, that will inform the exact month, but I think the September-October timeline is when we would expect to be back with a lot of the details and updated information on the transit study, the updated kind of benefits package, as well as updates on the design based on what we've heard tonight, what we heard on Tuesday night, and then also, of course, what we're hearing from DDOT and the Office of Planning and the Commission itself.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it would, definitely would be nice to, for the next hearing to come in to have those numbers kind of more solidified. Like, this is the offer. We're going to do this, and all in addition. And I understand those numbers change from year to year. Now, when assuming what is the general schedule? Just for folks watching at home, what is the general schedule for, like, upon the set down? How many months later do you expect the first hearing to go, and how long do you expect the PUD process to take, and when do you expect a shovel hitting dirt? Like, what's the overall plan?
Sure. So I can speak to the PUD timeline, and then maybe Peter, you can speak to the construction and development timeline with a little more clarity, because lawyers tend to get that stuff quite wrong. But the PUD process itself, we are hoping to have our hearing this year. So sometime in the fall would be our expectation. It then does take a bit of time for the order to come out from the zoning commission for whatever final project might be approved. So that typically takes a couple of months, sometimes a bit longer, depending on how the Office of Zoning is, how many orders they're trying to get out. But we wouldn't be able to pull any kind of building permit until that order has been issued and published. And of course, how long the PUD process takes, including the hearing, will depend on, continuing to work with the ANC and continuing to work with all the agencies. But ideally, and we're hopeful that we would be able to conclude the PUD process toward the end of this year, getting our order sometime in the early part of next year. And then I think construction would begin hopefully shortly after that. Is that right, Peter?
Well, I would say, Megan said that lawyers sometimes get construction and development timelines wrong, and I can assure you that developers get construction and development timelines wrong. So I can promise you that it won't be exactly what we think. But we still have to go through the financing process. And for these projects, for affordable projects, that can be quite complex. So our goal would be to try to complete that process in 23. And then if we can start construction toward the end of 23, we would be very happy, but it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't start until 24. And some of that is the challenge of building affordable housing is that it takes a long time, and we need a lot of it. There's a huge supply demand imbalance. And so, but it's a lengthy process. So we will be before you many times. We'll have lots of meetings, and there'll be lots of opportunities to chat more.
There's couple things I just remembered, which is sort of because of what happened with the building in which I now live, which is a condo that's relatively new. When they wired this building, only Comcast wired it because Verizon didn't get enough warning, and they still haven't done it, even though we've been requesting it. I don't know what your plans are for high-speed connectivity, but as the Gen Xers begin to approach, the 55 plus, some of us are already nearing that. They're going to expect high-speed internet connectivity. So you may, if you want to have Verizon in your building, you may want to start letting them know now. Another thing is, when I walk in that area, my cell phone does not get much of a signal. So you may wish to plan on having some cell towers put up on the top of your building. That would help the neighborhood, and it would also help the people in your building.
That's a great idea. We can certainly look into that. Yes, I mean, one of the benefits that, when you build a larger building is bringing in other infrastructure, to Kevin's point also. So we will certainly study that and, continue to report back on what we're able to find.
Just thought I would mention that because the service is somewhat lacking over there.
Well, we can do our best to correct that if we can.
Skip, there was just recently a BZA case to put a new cell phone tower over near Spring Arm School,
right,
specifically to increase the it was AT&T. Yeah, but they'd be on one part of the tower and other services will be on the other. So that was to help improve cellular reception in the neighborhood. But now that BZA, they received the zoning relief they needed, but in general, the neighbors actually really were opposed. Everyone wants better cell phone service, and nobody wants the tower next to their house. So that's a different ball of wax.
I'm just thinking the building might be high enough that nobody would actually see them up top.
Yeah, that is actually, Skip, you raise a good point. If it's not seen.
Especially if you camouflaged it in like a nice little whatever, so it didn't look like a cell phone tower.
If we could make it look like a tree.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, the cathedral has them up at the top of the bell tower. Nobody realizes they're there unless you've been up there.
So we are coming up to the end of the meeting. I want to give you guys, the applicants the last few minutes to kind of, if you have a wrap up, if you want to, I don't want to keep, I know there'll be many meetings coming up. So I would like to give you the floor to finish off and just wrap up your discussion, your presentation.
Yeah, no, we're just appreciative of the time and all the questions and comments, Kevin and Skip and others. Like Megan said, this is a long process. We'll be back before you many times. But every time you guys give us ideas, ask questions, give us critique, it helps make the project better. So we appreciate your time and look forward to continuing the discussion in the future. And Megan may have some other sage words, so don't let me steal your thunder.
No, I was going to just echo what you said, Peter. I really appreciate the committee taking the time to bring us in this month. And I know that was a really quick turnaround for you all to be able to add us onto the agenda. And we really do appreciate that because, like Peter said, getting these ideas and getting this feedback early in the process allows us to really, think and take it to agencies and really make the project better, but then also help us kind of move through the process with these iterations as opposed to just coming before you at the very end and trying to address everything. So we really do appreciate you all taking the time. We know that this is a very intensive job that you all have as part of the volunteer work that you do for your neighborhood. So we really do appreciate the time that you all take to do this. It's very helpful for us.
I appreciate it. So, with that, unless there's any other questions or comments, I'm going to give the time back. And I think I just realized for half this meeting, when we did screen sharing earlier, I forgot to re-enable gallery view. So I think a lot of the meeting, when you're doing your presentations, those were full screen. But I think most of us were not visible on screen. It was just the ASL interpreters who did a great job. I appreciate their service every month.
Thank you. And I will send around that link for, I guess I'll send it to you, Kevin, and maybe you can pass it on to anyone else with the ability to download the full PUD application for, it has those exhibits that we discussed. And I'll also include that link again to the DHCD page that has all of the income levels, just so that's all in one place for everyone.
Appreciate it. Always please CC Commissioner Moore, 5DO5 at anc.dc.gov, and Commissioner Blacknell at 5DO4 at anc.dc.gov. Commissioner Moore is our ANC chair, and Commissioner Blacknell is a single member district commissioner for this community.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
All right, cheers. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I'll have a good evening. Have a great night. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.